Hey everybody, Twin Dad here, and welcome back to Magium. This is going to be Book 2, Chapter 3, and apparently, I didn't even realize it was that long, honestly. It has been 6 months since I posted the last Magium video, which is pretty sad. Yeah, I really don't have much of an excuse besides, I just don't have a whole lot of time, but that's not really an excuse. I can find the time, I guess, but I'll try to put these up as quick as possible. Now, I'm not making no guarantees. Before, I tried to put it out once a week, or try to make a video like once every day or once every 2 days. But even that was too much. Between that and then rendering it and then uploading it because my internet is junk, it took off forever. But this is the beginning of chapter 3, and let's see where this goes. Apparently, if I seen it correctly, I looked yesterday or the day before, and all 11 chapters out for the second book. So, not sure. He probably is, but I hope the writer is making a third one. Anyway, here we go. Aluna's friend was waiting for us in an arena not far from the one where the trolls ambushed us. He was leaning on a wooden staff, with several dead trolls lying on the ground around him, and he was studying us closely as we approached him. His appearance shocked me at first, but when I saw Aluna nod to him, I immediately realized that he was the one she brought us to meet. Iluna's friend was no taller than 4 feet, with fangs instead of teeth, a crooked nose, pointy ears, and green skin. I must admit I wasn't expecting this friend of hers to be a goblin, but given the fact that Iluna is a banshee, I suppose that I shouldn't find it too strange that she'd have a few monster allies in Varathia. I've heard before that goblins are supposed to be really smart compared to the other monsters, but this goblin in particular has a very shrewd look about him, and his cunning grin reminds me of those slimy merchants that are constantly looking for new ways to rip you off, and he's not trying to hide it either. His high intelligence is likely a result of his old age, which I've heard is not an easy feat to achieve if you live your life as a goblin. Most goblins die young, either because of starvation or because they get killed while trying to steal food in order to survive. Since they are considered monsters by other civilized races, they are forced to live from scraps, and often need to resort to illegal activities such as smuggling and stealing in order to get the goods they require. But this goblin's skin is all wrinkly, which means he must have lived well over 200 years. Whoa, that's old. Given how slowly goblins are known to age, compared to humans, living this long as a goblin, especially in a place like Varathia, is definitely not something you can achieve through sheer luck. Is this Lethasai you were talking about, Luna? The goblin says in common language, as he looks towards me. Yes, Luna says. And the Lethasai girl, the goblin asks, is she from your group too? This Lethasai... No. The Lethasai girl are apparently a teammate from his arena division, Luna says. I only just met her myself. The goblin says. If she's a gladiator, then I suppose I can safely assume that she has done nothing to do with Meredith's group. I'll admit that I was a little worried at first. Hold on, I say. You're telling me that you can both tell she's a Lethasai just from one glance. Apparently he can. If your magical senses are sharp enough, you can tell the difference between a human and a Lethasai with minimal effort, as long as you study their auras closely, Luna says. However, when you've dealt with as many Lethasai as we have, it becomes second nature. Are you sure that these two can be trusted? The goblin asked Luna. Luna gives me one long look before she answers the goblin. Barry is trustworthy enough, she says. I don't know how much about the girl, but I don't see any reason why she wouldn't agree with what we are planning to do. She's a gladiator, after all. Hey, wait a minute, I tell Luna. If we're talking about trust, then the same question goes for him as well. Just how much are you willing to trust this guy? To me, he looks just about as trustworthy as a swindler who would try to trick you into buying a rigged game of cards on the main streets of Baggleberry. The goblin laughs out loud after hearing what I had to say about him. I like this one, the goblin says. He speaks exactly what's on his mind without making any effort to sugarcoat his words. To answer your question, Barry, Luna says, I do not trust him at all, and he does not trust me either. However, we are both smart enough to know that neither of us would benefit from betraying each other. The information he provides me with regarding other monster races' activities is invaluable, and in return, I've been helping him from time to time by ridding him of some of his enemies, or by joining him in covert missions such as this one. If you see the blinds moving behind me, it's the cats. And what exactly is this covert mission that you are talking about? I say. There is a Minotaur being held here, in these tunnels, the goblin says. They call him the undefeated champion of the arena. You're supposed to be fighting him in the second round, provided you survive the first one. I want to make him an offer. What offer, I ask. I will offer him his freedom if he agrees to join my goblin camp and be part of my army, the goblin says. You have an army? I ask him, confused. I thought you were just some random goblin that was acting as Luna's informant. The goblin laughs again. There really isn't any limit to your bluntness and disrespect, is there? Goblin says. The goblin you are talking about is Fjorn. Fyron? Huh. The general of all free goblins, Aluna says, in a bored tone. He is at the top of the hierarchy of all the goblins from Varathia, and they are not under Tyrath's rule. Oh, I didn't know Tyrath. Huh. Tyrath, I ask? You mean the dragon I fought on my second day here? The one and only, Aluna says. I am intrigued, Fyron says, as he strokes his chin, and he looks at me. I can't say that I've heard many beings that fought Tyrath and lived to tell the tale. How exactly did you manage to escape his wrath? Who said that I escaped? The ones who fought Tyrath before me sound like a bunch of weaklings. Alright. Who said I escaped? So you managed to persuade him to let you go then? The goblin general says. Or are you going to tell me that you defeat him all by yourself? Not by himself, Aluna says. He had the help from a certain Stillwater that I believe you are well acquainted with. You were talking about Eden? Fyron asks. Yes, Aluna says. Eden seems to have taken an odd interest in Barry and his group for whatever reason. I hear that the Stillwater appeared out of nowhere in the middle of their battle with the dragon, and he powered up Barry's stat device in a way that allowed him to cast spells. This is the reason why Barry was able to fight Tyrath on equal terms. What you are telling me should be impossible, the Goblin General says. Unless the item itself is one casting the spells, a Lesthai should not be able to use magic by any means, because of the complete lack of magic in their aura. I did hear that the Lesthai of old experimented with adding magical stats to the device a long time ago, but I'm quite certain that they never managed to make it work. In order for someone to be able to cast spells by using those stats, they would need to have both the low magical frequency in their aura that is specific to the Lesthai, and the potential to cast spells. They practically need to be both Lesthai and the goblin stops talking suddenly, looking as if he just made a shocking realization. Seeing the look on his face, Araka starts to laugh from within her amulet. So you finally figured it out, eh? Araka says. You knew? Fyron asks her. I figured it a while ago, after you started casting spells left and right, against a bunch of skeletons, Araka says. But I thought he was a regular Lesthai too at first. Eden is probably the one who knew it from the start. So that's why he has taken an interest in him, Fyron says. What are you two talking about, I say? And I'm kind of curious myself. They're saying that you're half a Lesthai, Aluna says, a half human. Half Lesthai to be more exact. Upon hearing Aluna's words, Layla suddenly turns her head towards her, and she watches her attentively. This is the first time I've heard her react in any way since the beginning of our conversation. A half Lesthai, you say, I tell Aluna. It's the only possible explanation, Fyron says. I don't know any other race that look the way you do, and as long as you are also half human, your use of magical stats makes sense. To be honest, I don't really care either way, I say. Being a half Lesthai doesn't really make much difference to me. Besides, I have absolutely no idea how I'm supposed to use those magical stats that you're talking about so far. I've only been able to use them for a very short period of time, and only after gaining access to a huge source of energy. That's not exactly ideal. There is a way to unlock those stats permanently, Fyron says. However, doing so will require a code that is likely only known by a handful of Lesthai and the top brass of their organization. I wouldn't realistically expect you to get a use out of those stats anytime soon. So, I say, it's not that I'm not enjoying our conversation and everything, but shouldn't we be getting moving before the trolls send more reinforcements our way? Why would they send any reinforcements? Fyron asks. I already took care of their scouts. He then gestures towards all the dead trolls lying on the ground around him. Nobody else should know that we're here, Fyron continues. Snap. Speaking of the trolls, Araka says, are you guys going to hide these bodies anytime soon, or are you planning on hanging them as decorations? Not that I'm against either of those ideas, of course. Can't you just wake up Flower and have her incinerate the troll corpses? I ask Aluna. I'd rather not wake up Flower unless it's absolutely necessary, Aluna says. Stealth missions were never exactly her speciality, and she doesn't really get along with Fyron all that well either. No need to worry, Fyron says. I've got everything covered. The goblin then smacks his staff into the ground, and all the troll corpses get engulfed in flames at the same time. After a few seconds, the flames disappear, and the dead bodies are replaced by ashes. Shall we proceed? The goblin says. Araka, are there any enemies in our way? Aluna says. Nah, Araka says. You've already killed most of the guards from this area. And no one is hiding invisibly, Aluna says. No one. Excuse me, Leela writes as she looks at Aluna. Did you just say the banshee from the amulet is named Araka? I did, Aluna says. Have you heard of her? I've heard a few things. Yes, Leela writes. What exactly did you hear about her? Did you hear she'll grant you the wishes? Oh my goodness. Did you hear that she'll grant you 3 wishes if you spin her by the chain? No, Leela writes. The stories I've heard of her didn't really make her out to be a particularly benevolent spirit. Who the hell are you two talking to? Araka says. Have you both gone insane? We were talking to Leela, I say. Who the hell is Leela? Araka says. The Lesathai girl, Luna says. She's been communicating with us through her written messages floating in the air in front of her. Oh, so that's what she was doing, Araka says. Can you see the writing? I ask her. No, I can't see anything from inside here. Are you stupid? I have no eyes. I can make up most things with my magical sense, so I don't really need my eyesight for anything important. But to me, the girl's drawings in the air were just magical particles, floating around at random. Now that I know they're supposed to be, I might be able to make a little bit more sense of them. Are you sure it's safe to carry her around like this? Leela writes, looking concerned. Don't worry, she's not that tough, I say. Hell, I fought her with a dagger while she was in her best condition, and she still couldn't kill me. You really trying to play with fire, don't you, Berry Boy? Rex says. As long as she stays in the amulet, she's not a threat to us. Luna tells Leela. Come on, let's go. We've been standing in one place for long enough. She pauses. But before that, she says, I'm going to cast a few healing spells. Most of your wounds seem to be older than 1 day, and they're not severe, so I should have no trouble healing them completely. Barry, I have no idea if the blood on your clothes comes from your wounds or from the trolls I killed either, but if you need healing, I'll tend to you afterwards. Thank you, Leela writes, as Luna begins to cast her healing spells. After Luna is done with the healing, the Goblin General takes the lead, and he guides us through an empty tunnel, on the opposite side of the tunnel we came in from. This is quite an interesting method of communication you're using, young girl, Farron says. Judging by the way the magical particles are forming in the air, I would venture a guess that you are using some kind of modified version of a stat booster to transmit your messages. Am I correct? Leela does not answer the Goblin immediately, and she takes a few moments to look at him in the eyes before she writes her response. I see that you are very knowledgeable when it comes to magical devices, Leela writes. I fiddle around with a few artifacts and devices, including my staff, yes? Farron says, but nothing as complex as your translator. I must have taken a very thorough understanding of the ins and outs of mind-reading magic and years of hard work to make something this sophisticated. Whoever worked on your device must have been very talented. He is, Leela writes, with a solemn look on her face. So, I say, why are you looking to invite the Minotaur into your army? Are you planning to go to war against the dragon? How intriguing, the general says. You have absolutely nothing to gain from this information, yet you are casually asking me to divulge to you some of my most important military secrets without offering me anything in return. I know that you are not a spy, because no spy would be stupid enough to ask me something like this directly. So what is the reason behind your question, I wonder? I believe this is what humans like to call small talk, Luna says, in her usual indifferent tone. Empty words with the sole purpose of engaging in a conversation, for no reason in particular. Barry is just particularly bad at being discreet, so he never stopped to think of whether his question was appropriate enough for this situation. Give me a break, I say. If you are so worried about me knowing your plans, you have never allowed me to find out about the Minotaur in the first place. If you had any reason to think that I might somehow leak the information, you can just tell me that you're looking to hire the Minotaur as an army's accountant, and leave it at that. It's not like I can verify the information you gave me anyway. Ah, so you're not completely stupid after all, Farron says, with a smirk. This is a relief. Well, in that case, as you said, the Minotaur will be joining our accounting team as soon as he completes his training program. I'm expecting great things from him in the months to come. Araka laughs. If I were you, she says, I'd make the Minotaur do the accounting anyway, just to mess with them. I hear that jobs do not involve physical labor are considered to be the most dishonorable by Minotaur standards. I'll keep that in mind, Farron says, as he knocks on a wall with his staff and his secret path opens in front of us. You really know your way around these tunnels, huh? I tell the goblin, as we enter the hidden corridor. Farron spends lots of time exploring hidden passages and underground rooms, he says. Aluna says. His hobbies are not much different from those in Flower in that regard. Now, Aluna, Farron says. There's no need to insult me like this. After all, isn't it due to my so-called hobby that we have managed to remain undetected thus far? I would appreciate that if you refrained from comparing me to your dim-witted companion over a small similarity of such things. Oh, Aluna says, did you forget that perhaps that it is thanks to my dim-witted companion that you were able to build staff of yours? We would have never met in the cave 20 years ago if not for Flower's unrivaled stupidity. Ha 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 ha, Raka laughs. I still remember your face when you woke up in the middle of the cave, surrounded by fire elementals. I can't believe that she actually fell for my bluff. Just thinking about it makes me burst into laughter. Hello? We hear a voice coming from the dark corridor of our right. Is anyone there? Can you hear me? We all stop suddenly as we look towards the corridor, in an attempt to find the source of the sound. The voice seems to have come from the end of the tunnel, but it's much too dark to see anything clearly. If you can hear me, please help, the voice says again. I've been trapped in here for months. I'll do anything you want, please. The goblin says, as he creates an orb of light with his staff, and then he makes it float all the way to the end of the tunnel. Now that we get a clear look, we see at the end of the corridor there's a locked cell which holds only one prisoner, a tiger. Where are you calling? Were you the one calling out to us earlier? Firon asked the tiger. Yes, the tiger answers him. Please let me out of here. I'll do whatever you ask. Oh, the goblin says, with a mocking smile. Are you certain that it's a good idea to be addressing us in common tongue like this? I hear that the old fox is executing anyone who dares to speak in this language nowadays. The golden fox can go to hell, and so can her rules, the tiger shouts. I'm never going back to that horrible place again. You do not wish to return to the fox's domain, Firon says. But what other place is there for animals like you? Who else is going to protect you, if not the spirit fox? I don't need anyone's protection, the tiger says. The goblin grins. Is this why you're in this cell, alone, begging for our help, then? He says, because you do not need anyone's protection. The tiger lowers his head, and he does not say anything. Let me see if I understand this fully, Firon says. From what you've hinted so far, I'm assuming that you've abandoned the fox's domain long before you've been captured, am I correct? Yes, the tiger says, with his head still lowered. Why are the other animals captured alongside you? Firon asks. No. Wire. Man, I'm dumb. No, the tiger says. I've been living by myself ever since I left the sacred woods. I see, Firon says. He then makes his orb of light float closer to the iron bars of the cell, and the light from the orb begins to fade. Firon says. As I suspected. The cell you have been placed into restricts the use of magic. Shall I take it that you are a mage then? I am, the tiger says. The goblin grins again, as he turns his gaze towards me. It appears that I'm in luck, Barry, Firon says. I may have just found myself the perfect candidate to lead my army's accounting team. What do you think? Does he look fit for the task? Oh boy. See, it didn't take you long, Dr. Team Small. Can we stop calling accountants? I'm going to tell you straight. I don't see him holding a pen anytime soon. Fortunately, he will not be needing a pen in order to lead this team, Firon says. He just needs to be good at calculations. I'm sorry, the tiger says. You want me to do what? The goblin laughs. Pay us no mind, he says. We're only jesting. Although, you did say that you'd do anything I ask, so you should not act so surprised, even if I made you arrange desk papers for a living. I suppose, the tiger says. Iluna, could you take care of those iron bars for me? The goblin general says. The anti-magic properties of the cell do not seem to spread beyond those bars, so you should be able to slice them with your water whips from the outside. Very well, Iluna says. She then conjures two whips made out of water that she appears to be holding with her hands. She uses them to slice the iron bars into pieces. You are now free, Firon says, looking at the tiger that is now walking out of his cell. And by this I mean that you are free to do my bidding. I really do hope that you are not planning to betray me and join the fox immediately after we get out of this place. I assure you that is not going to happen, the tiger says. The goblin says. May I ask, what is it that the fox has done in order to lose your loyalties to such a degree? Why would you still refuse to go back to your homeland, even after all this time passed? I have my reasons, the tiger says. See, that's not very reassuring, Firon says, as he points towards the tiger with his staff. If you're going to give me vague answers like that from the very beginning, what's to tell me that you didn't in fact make up the whole story about leaving the fox's domain just to gain my sympathy? The fact that I'm speaking to you in the common language, the tiger says. Explain, Firon says. Alea, the great golden fox, the tiger says, has a habit of interrogating all the animals that return to her domain after a long period of captivity. One question that is always asked is if you'd spoken to any human in the common while you were away. There is no way to hide the truth from the great fox. As long as she is studying your aura, she can easily tell if you're lying or not. Even if I weren't an exile, like I said, going back to my homeland now would be nothing short of suicide. She would execute me on the spot. I admit that I have heard the fox's interrogations, Firon says, but I assume that she would make an exception for mages and for other valuable members of her community. The fox does not make exceptions, the tiger says, with a look in his eye that seems to show both anger and terror at the same time. I used to be the same as you, before she murdered the leopard's son in cold blood. Blah, blah. The leopard's son in cold blood. The leopard, I say? You mean Leo, the leopard? Yes, that is whom I am referring to, the tiger says. He was her most loyal retainer. He still is. But that did not stop her from executing his cub for the heinous crime of begging for his life in common to a couple of human hunters. The leopard may have accepted her judgment, but I never will. The tiger pauses for a few seconds, and then he repeats himself in a lower voice. I never will. As Faron says, now that things are starting to make more sense. If the fox later also executed your family in a similar manner, to show to how she executed the leopard cub, I can see why you would choose to leave her domain forever. That would also explain why you left your homeland by yourself. The tiger is looking pretty angry after hearing the goblin's words, but she chooses to remain silent. You've said enough, Faron tells the tiger. At the very least, I wouldn't find it very unlikely that you would turn to the golden fox after all you just said. Regarding your debt to me, I ask only that you accompany me to my goblin camp on my way back. If the life there is not to your liking, then you may leave at any point, and I consider your debt to me paid. I am, however, quite confident that you will choose to remain. And why is that? The tiger says. You will understand once you get there, Faron says. Now follow us. There is another prisoner that we need to rescue before we can leave this place. Another prisoner? The tiger asks as he joins us, and we all resume our walk through the cave. You don't mean the Minotaur, do you? Who else could I mean? Faron says. Is there anyone else here that would be worth the effort of releasing? I suppose not, the tiger says. The Minotaur is likely the only prisoner from this place, aside from me, who is not some mindless beast. I'm curious, I say. You say all the creatures trapped in these caves are mindless beasts, but I've also seen some saber-toothed tigers on my way here. Do you feel the same way about them, too? Of course I do, the tiger says. What kind of question is this? Well, they are tigers, I say. No, they aren't, the tiger says furiously. They are saber-toothed tigers, not tigers. How can you even compare the two? Barry is not from Varathia, Luna says. Believe it or not, in the continents outside of Varathia, there isn't much of a difference between animals and creatures. A tiger from the western continents is just as much a mindless beast as a saber-toothed tiger. You can't be serious, the tiger says. On the contrary, Luna says, I'm quite serious. I do not know if the high level of intelligence shown by animals in Varathia is due to the golden fox's influence or due to some other factors. But the fact of the matter is that Varathia is the only place in the world where animals can speak, and it is the only place in the world where they live in civilized societies. Ha! Araka says. How does it feel to know that there are animals out there who are dumber than ogres? Did you think you were anything special? I am willing to bet that people from outside Varathia wouldn't even be able to tell your difference between you and a wild beast. To them, you're nothing but a mindless creature, no different from a harpy or a giant slug. Isn't that right, Barry? Well, it's a bit hard to try. Yeah, to me, he's no different from a harpy, giant, but well, it's a bit hard to treat him like a dumb beast when he can speak common. Don't worry, I have an easy fix for that, Araka says. Just ignore what he says. If you don't pay any attention to him, you'll find that it's much easier to treat him like an animal. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say animal? What I meant to say was creature. I always get the two mixed up. Ha ha ha. Who the hell is that clown from the amulet, the tiger says? Some sort of prankster spirit? That's rude, you know, Araka says. You should not assume I'm a clown just because the girl wearing that amulet is dressed in clown clothes. Don't they teach you manners in animal school? As unbelievable as it may sound, Luna says, ignoring Araka, the banshee trapped in this amulet is the one responsible for the exile of all banshees to the earthen plane. The gods didn't want to deal with her, so they banished her here, along with her kind, or so she claims. I can see why they'd want her out of the magical plane, the tiger says. Even the gods would not have patience when they're dealing with such idiocy. Oh yeah, Araka says? Well, I'll have you know that she does not get to finish what she had to say because Luna slaps the amulet shut in the middle of her sentence. I've heard enough of this, Luna says. We have more important matters to discuss right now. She then turns to me. Barry, do you and Leela have a means of returning to your cells? And Luna says, I think I should warn you that Farah and I will be teleporting out of here as soon as we free the Minotaur. So we won't be back here to escort you. No, we don't have any means of returning to our cells, I say. The way we came is sealed shut and 100 feet above the ground. We need to find another way back. If you're looking to reach the main corridors below the arena, Faron says, there's a secret tunnel that I can open for you, not far from where the Minotaur is located. You might have to get past several traps in order to reach your destination, however. That's awful nice of you, I say. Don't worry, Luna says, seeing the mistrust on my face. Faron is not foolish enough to risk his alliance with me for no other reason than to amuse himself. He is not Araka, If he says there's a tunnel leading to the corridors below the arena, then he likely speaks the truth. I see, I say. Well, in that case, thanks, I guess. There's no need to thank me, Barry, Faron says. I never help people for free. You may come a time when I will need your help as well. If that time ever comes, I'd rather have you owe me a favor than the other way around. That's all there is to it. Smart goblin. Faron, is this the last tunnel before the labyrinth? Luna says. Yes, Faron says. The tunnel's exit should leave us very close to the maze entrance. Wait, a maze, I say? Do you know the old legend, Faron says, in which the gods worked together to build an elaborate maze for the sole purpose of trapping the king of the Minotaurs? Well, it seems that the owner of the arena liked the story so much that he decided to build his own underground labyrinth as soon as he could get a hold of the Minotaur. Unfortunately, I do not have a chance to visit these tunnels since the maze was created, so once we reach it, I won't know my way around as well as I have so far. I don't think that will be a problem, Luna says. Since there will likely be no need to hide ourselves anymore once we reach the maze, they will surely have caught on to our presence by then. I think we should be able to handle their guards by ourselves easily. But if worse comes to worse, I'll wake up Flower as well. I'm sorry, who is Flower? Leela writes confused. Flower is the little girl inhabiting this body, Luna says. You mean she's still alive? Leela writes, shocked. But aren't you a banshee? Didn't you consume her soul when you took over her body? Luna laughs. If only it would have been that easy, she says. Unfortunately, the two of us has been stuck together in this body for the past 20 years, and will likely continue living on like this for years to come. Our souls are fused. I see, Leela writes, simply. She looks as if she still has some questions to ask, but ultimately she decides against it. As the tunnel's exit draws closer, Luna reopens Araka's amulet, and she asks her if she can spot any enemies nearby. Oh, so now you want to talk, Araka says. You're not going to close the amulet in my face anymore. Well, if I don't want to talk, what do you say to that? If you're not planning to talk, then I have no further need of you, Aluna says as she starts to close the amulet back. Have a good nap. Wait, Araka says, just as Aluna was about to close the amulet completely. Okay, fine, you win. There are some trolls much further down the next tunnel, but they're not in viewing range of the maze's entrance. The coast is clear. That doesn't sound right, Aluna says. They should have at least some guards at the entrance of the labyrinth. I'm much more inclined to believe that they'd become aware of our presence and they're deliberately emptied the next tunnel in order to lure us into the maze. That changes little, Faron says. The only way to reach the Minotaur is through the maze. If the trolls choose to stand in our way, then we'll just have to make our way through them. Once we reach our next corridor, we make sure that the coast is indeed clear, and then we proceed to enter the maze. The walls inside the labyrinth look a bit different from all the rocky walls that we've seen in the cavern so far. They are black as coal. They appear to be made of different material. Faron, who seems to have spotted the difference as well, gets closer to one of the walls, and he looks at it curiously. He swipes at the wall briefly with his index finger, and then he brings the finger close to his face, studying the black powder that is accumulating on the tip of it attentively. Tell me, Araka, the goblin says, are you sensing any trolls nearby? What? Araka says. No, I told you that the coast is clear. Are you sure? Faron asks. What kind of question is that? Araka says. Of course I'm sure. Oh? Faron says. Then could you perhaps describe to me what lies beyond this black wall? Yeah, hold on a sec, Araka says. For about 10 seconds we all wait silently for Araka's answer. Well? Faron says. Weren't you going to describe us what's on the other side? There's a bit of interference, Araka says. I'm still working on it. Oh, then by all means, Faron says. You do not let this old goblin's rambling to interrupt you from your work. Please, take all the time you need. It takes 30 seconds more of silence until Aluna finally snaps. Good God, she shouted. How long is it going to take you to admit the obvious? This wall is clearly made from material that blocks magical sense. We can wait here all day, and you're still not going to get through it. Are you really that stubborn? Fine, Araka says. I admit it. I can't go through it. I have no idea what's on the other side. Are you happy now? Faron grins. Thank you, Araka. I believe this will suffice, he says, as the Ilanu noted. This wall is made from material that does not allow magical sense to pass through. This type of black rock is not uncommon in underground caves such as this, and it is called ceridium. The owner of this arena must have chosen to build his labyrinth here specifically because of the existence of these rocks. There wouldn't be much point in making a labyrinth if people could just use their magical sense to see through the walls, now would there? As the goblin was talking, Leela was busy inspecting the floor of the cave, with a very focused look on her face. Faron notices her, and he goes closer. in an attempt to figure out what she is studying so attentively. Is there something special about the corridor's floor? Farron asks. Layla nods. She then points towards a black spot on the ground, which is almost indistinguishable from the color of the rest of the floor. This is no ordinary black stain, Layla writes. This is troll blood. Look. There's more over there, and there as well. The trail is fresh. If we follow the drops of blood, they might just lead us to the Minotaur. Or the trolls could be very well baiting us, so that we walk directly into their ambush, the tiger says. Since when do trolls leave blood trails anyway? Don't they have regeneration powers that heal all their wounds in a matter of seconds? Not all of them, Aluna says. The effectiveness of their regeneration varies from individual to individual. There are also certain types of wounds that heal slower than others. We have no way of knowing whether this trail was left deliberately or accidentally. Not that it matters, really. As long as we aim to reach the Minotaur, we're going to run into the trolls sooner or later, whether we follow this trail or not. I'm gonna follow the blood trail. In that case, I propose we follow the blood trail, I say. If the trolls left it deliberately, then we'll have to fight them, like we were already planning to do. But if they did this by accident, then at least we won't have to waste hours of time navigating the labyrinth. A valid proposal, Farron says. Does anyone have any objections? As I've said, it's all the same to me, Aluna says. Do what you want, Tiger says. Lila remains silent, but she does not appear to want to make any objections. Very well then, Farron says. Whew. Middle of the day, I know I'm tired. We will pursue the blood trail, however. Our first priority should be mapping of this maze. Araka, I understand that you have ability to generate holograms. Yeah, Araka says, but I can't make a map of this place if my magical sense can't pass through the walls. It doesn't matter, Farron says. You can just draw a map as we walk. What's important is that we don't lose track of where we are. I'll be marking the walls periodically as we advance through the maze for that same purpose. Alright then, Araka says. Here goes. She then conjures a hologram similar to the one she made in the ogre stronghold. We were represented by colored dots, and the map is covered by a black fog, except for the corridor that we are currently in. In the meantime, Farron uses his staff to imprint a complex symbol on the wall to our right. It's magical green ink. We're good to go, Farron says. Follow me. This Farron guy is really cool. Whoop! I'd like him. I hope he's in our group. That'd be fun. Probably not, though. He's a general. As we walk through the fog, from Araka's map is beginning to clear, little by little getting replaced by parts of the maze that we already know, while Farron is making sure that he leaves no wall unmarked. Aren't you going to ask me what the complex symbol I'm making on the walls means, Barry? Farron says with a grin. No thanks. It's not worth owing you another favor just to get an answer like that. You are learning fast, Farron says, and then he marks yet another wall with his green ink symbol. As we advance through the corridors, I suddenly hear the voices of several trolls, talking in low voices, far away from our position. Unfortunately, the language they are speaking in is one that I haven't heard before, and there's no way for me to understand them. After exchanging a few words, the trolls stopped talking, and the corridors fall silent once again. A few minutes later, we finally reach the end of the trail of blood, which leads us to a dead end, but also to a wounded troll with an arrow stuck in his chest, sitting on the ground, with his back leaning against the wall. We've studied the troll and his surroundings from a safe place, an attempt to figure out if this is supposed to be a setup for an ambush or not, but there is no way to tell for sure. Are you the intruders? The troll says in common, while breathing heavily. We are indeed, Farron says. Please, the troll says, can you help me remove this arrow from my chest? And why would we do something like that? Farron says. You are looking for the Minotaur, yes? The troll says, if you help me, I can lead you to him. I know the way. Why not? Oh no, I think I died. You'd better not be lying to us, I say, as I begin to approach him. Luna grabs me by the arm in an attempt to stop me. Just what do you think you're doing? She says. Calm down, I tell her. I know what I'm doing. Don't you think I can handle one wounded troll by myself? Luna frowns at me, but she lets me go. Don't say I didn't warn you, she says. I approach the troll and kneel down to him so I can properly move the arrow from the chest. Thank you, sir, the troll says. You are far too kind. As I focus on carefully moving the arrow, I notice the trail of my eye. The troll is holding something in his hand behind his back. Barry, get back, Luna shouts, but it's too late. Before I can react, the whole area around me explodes, and I barely get to understand what happened before I lose my consciousness for good. Crap! See, that's why it's better just to kill everybody, I guess. Anyway, I will be back to the same point, and I'm going to choose the other option. Thank you. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to leave him to die horribly. Looks like a trap to me, I say. I'm definitely not getting anywhere near that troll. Come on, let's try out some of the other paths. I agree, Aluna says. At this point, I would find it highly unlikely for this to be anything other than a trap. I didn't know that the first time. Let's go to the fear. No, wait, the troll shouts as he tries to get up, and he coughs up some blood. I can help you. Don't leave me like this. Come back. We all ignore the troll's desperate cries for help, and we begin to walk down a different corridor, while Fireone and Araka resume their efforts to map the maze. We walk through the maze for about 15 minutes without encountering any resistance along the way. We reached a few dead ends, but Araka marked them all on the map, so we would be no risk of running into them again, as we continued our journey through the maze. However, we ran into a situation that we had not predicted. Even though we'd been carefully following Araka's map the whole time, somehow we ended up in the middle of a corridor that had already been marked with Fireone's green symbol. Dumbfounded, we all look at Araka's map and attempt to understand what we missed, while Fireone carefully inspects his symbol from the wall. How is this possible? Aluna says. I've been closely monitoring Araka's map while she was drawing it, and I'm certain that it's accurate. According to the map, this should be an unexplored area. Did the trolls manage to falsify the green symbol? It's not a copy, Fireone says. My mark cannot be so easily reproduced, and aside from that, I also recognize this corridor. I can tell you with a certainty that we've been here before, although I'm not exactly sure how we... As he is talking, a certain rock formation in one of the walls catches his eye, and makes him stop mid-sentence. He says, as he gets closer to the wall, and he taps it lightly with his staff. The goblin is not wrong. We hear a voice coming from a darker part of the corridor. As the one who just spoke gets close to us, we see that he is a particularly bulky troll, wearing anti-magic armor from head to toe, and holding 2 scimitars in his hand. He is grinning triumphantly. You've been running in circles ever since you entered this maze, the troll says. I knew that you'd be coming back to this corridor soon. Psst, I whisper to Aluna, while the troll is giving us the victory speech. Why aren't you killing him? He is wearing anti-magic armor, and he has a helmet, Aluna says. Aluna whispers back to me. That means that I can't make my water sharp against him, so I won't be able to cut his head off with my water whips. Yeah, but isn't anti-magic armor basically just regular armor for some protection on it? I whisper. Can't you have flower burn him alive? There is no anti-magic armor in existence without protection from fire. Casting fire magic on him would be pointless. Well. While the two of us were whispering, hiding behind Leela and the tiger, the troll seemed to have finished his gloating and is now preparing to attack. There is no way for you to escape, the troll says. Resign yourselves to your fate. Today is the last day of... Leela appears to have had enough, as she makes a dash towards the troll, shocking him with her speed and slashing his head right off with her dagger in an instant. Instead of dropping it to the ground, however, the troll's body attacks her with 2 scimitars, which Leela barely manages to avoid, but making a quick jump backwards. That's not how you begin a battle, human, the troll's head says from the ground. Attacking an enemy out of the blue without giving proper warning is a mark of cowardice. Did they not teach you proper gladiator etiquette when they brought you in the arena? His body then picks up his head from the ground, and it places it back on top of his neck. Within seconds, the head attaches itself back to its body, making it look like as if there had never been a wound in the first place. A troll that doesn't die even when you cut off its head? Fireone says, This is not what I signed up for, Aluna. Aluna used the cage spell. I can only use the spell once per day, Aluna says. If I use it now, it doesn't matter, Fireone says. You won't need to use it later. I have a plan. Cage him, now. Aluna frowns at him, but she does what he asks. She stretches her arms towards the troll, and out of nowhere, a golden cage appears around him, trapping him inside. It is the same spell that she used to trap us when we were in the ogre fort. The golden fox spell. Did you seriously think that a mere cage could stop me? The troll says, as he begins slashing furiously at the cage's golden bars. Yes, we do, Fireone says, as he smacks his staff into the ground, generating a cloud of grey smoke that fills the entire corridor. I then hear the sound of rocks moving to my right, and after that, I can see the outlines of my companions through the smoke, moving past me. Over here, I hear Aluna's voice as she grabs me by the arm and pulls me towards her. I follow her through the smoke, and we both enter a narrow passage leading to the other side of one of the walls. Once we are all through, Fireone smacks his staff into the cave's walls from the inside, and the hole in the wall closes itself back up. He then makes his way past us, to retake the lead, and he smacks his staff on the other side of the passage, opening up another secret door, which leads us to an unexplored corridor without any markings on the walls. That cage isn't going to hold him for long, Aluna says, as we all make our way out of the passage, and the secret door closes itself behind us. Would you mind telling me what this plan of yours is? He doesn't need to be held for long, Farron says. I very much doubt that he knows about the existence of that secret passage, so he's not going to find us anytime soon. More importantly, I recognize that corridor from earlier, and I recognize this one as well. It seems that they've kept some of the old corridors and included them in the labyrinth when they built this place. If that's the case, then I think I have a pretty good idea where we are, and the Minotaur's cell should not be far from here. Follow me. Ooh, baby, an achievement! I've been meaning to ask, I tell Luna. Wasn't the golden cage from earlier one of the golden fox's spells? How did you manage to learn it? It's not the fox's spell, Luna says. It's a complex spell that can only be used by beings that originate from magical plane. I learned it from Araka. I see, I say. Ha, I was wondering why I didn't remember there being a wall on this side, Philo says. As we turn to him, we see him walk straight through one of the walls, disappearing from our sight. Come over here, Philo shouts from the other side. The wall's an illusion. This is how they must have been fooling us so long. They've got illusions like this set up. Then I wouldn't put it past them to also have cast a spell on this place that messes with our senses of direction. That would explain why Araka's map didn't help. It doesn't matter though. If my intuition is correct, we should be almost there. We all walk through the illusionary wall, and we continue our journey towards the Minotaur. A few minutes later, when we're almost at our destination, we encounter a few more trolls, who are likely the ones chosen to guard the Minotaur's cell. They barely got the time to react to our presence before Luna slices their head off with her signature water whip. Aren't you going to burn the bodies? I asked the goblin. I'm not wasting any more energy from my staff for something so trivial, Farron says. If you want to, you can hide the body yourself. Not that it would make much of a difference at this point. Meh, I'm gonna hide them. Fine, I'll hide them by myself, I say. Suit yourself, Farron says. The Minotaur cell should be a little further down the corridor. You can find us when we're done. As the others head towards the Minotaur, I prepare to lift one of the troll's dead bodies. Then I notice Leela walking to the other end of the corpse and grab me by the legs. Oh, I say to her, when I understand what she is doing. Thanks. She smiles at me, and we both grab the troll's body and carry it over to our nearby secret passage. There's not much we can do about all the blood on the floor, but given the darkness of the corridor, at least it'll be harder to notice from a distance than a bunch of corpses lying in plain sight. Once we're done moving all the bodies and the heads into the passage, we close the secret door and we hurry to catch up with the others. Just as we approach them, Farron uses his staff to cast a spell on a magical panel from the wall. The panel fizzles and unlocks a gate from the cell near it. Perfect, the goblin says, as he sees me and Leela approach. You've arrived just in time. With the gate now open, the prisoner inside the cell steps outside. He has the head of a bull and the body of a man, but he is taller than Darren and twice the muscles. The Minotaur takes a quick glance towards us as he gets out, and then turns towards the goblin. How are you planning to get me out of these caverns? The Minotaur says. By using magic, Farron says. It just so happens that Aluna and I are both rather adept at spellcasting, and we both have the ability to teleport, within certain limitations. He then turns to Aluna. Luna, Farron says, can you teleport the Minotaur to the surface? As far as I know, your daily teleportation spell does not have a weight limit. Mine, on the other hand, costs additional energy for every extra pound. I would rather you take the Minotaur with you, since he's by far the heaviest of the group. I will be with you shortly, after I lead your friends to the secret passage I mentioned earlier. Aluna nods, and the goblin now turns towards the Minotaur. Once you are to the surface, Aluna won't be able to help you, Farron says. Everyone in the city knows your face from the arena, so she can't be seen fighting alongside you, unless she wants to get a criminal record. Don't wait for us. As soon as you are out of the caverns, make a rush towards the city gates, smash right through them, and don't stop until you reach the Mertram Woods. We will meet you there. I'll be waiting, the Minotaur says. We should get going, Aluna says, and she grabs the Minotaur's hand in order to get ready for teleportation. She gives us all one last look, stopping her gaze for a few seconds. When her eyes meet mine, don't die, she tells me simply. I won't, I say. She then casts her teleportation spell, and both her and the Minotaur disappear from our sight. This way, Farron says, as she goes back the way we came. He then stops by a wall and taps it lightly 3 times with a staff, causing a secret door to open up, and to reveal a hidden passage. This tunnel will lead you back to the upper levels, Farron says. I trust that you will be able to find your way back to yourselves from there. We'll manage, I say. I think I should also mention that the tunnel can only be opened from this side, Farron says. Once you enter it, you won't be able to go back. The goblin then turns to Leela. As far as I know, he says, Barry is required to return to this cell, unless he wants to get disqualified from the tournament. You, however, are bound by no such rules. If you want, I can give you a lift. There's enough energy in my staff remaining to teleport 1 extra person.
Thank you, Lula writes, but I'm fine. I will take the tunnel. Are you sure? The goblin asks. I promise I won't charge you much. I'm positive, Lula writes. Very well then, Farron says as he readies his staff and he signals the target to come near him. I wish you both luck, the goblin says. Next time we meet, I will hope to be under better circumstances. He then casts a spell and he vanishes into thin air. Alongside the tiger, me and Leela waste no time and we enter the secret tunnel as the door shuts itself behind us. You have some very unique friends, Leela writes, smiling as we walk through the corridor. You can say that again. I never thought I'd ever travel in the company of so many monsters, Leela writes. At least, not unless I'd been captured by them. To be fair, I say, I wasn't expecting the goblin either, but I guess that seeing a goblin is far less shocking than seeing two banshees on the same day. I pause for a few seconds, and then I change the subject. So, why didn't you accept the goblin's offer earlier? I ask her. Is it because you don't trust him? Oh no, it's not that, Leela writes. It's just that I never intend to break out of here. Why not, I say. Couldn't you just run past all the guards in the city now that your wounds are healed? Leela shakes her head. The Lesthai that framed my father are watching me, carefully, she writes. As long as I survive the arena, the charges against me will be dropped, and they won't be able to touch me. But if I escape illegally, they will use all their means at their disposal to hunt me down. I would never make it into the city gates alive. You're saying that you'd rather fight the creatures from the arena, I say, than have a direct confrontation with the Lesthai from the city. Yes, Leela writes. The Lesthai have powerful artifacts that allow them to use magic, similar to the staff that the Goblin's general was using. At least in the arena, nobody is allowed to use magic, so as long as I have my stat device, I can stand a chance. Yeah, I guess I see your point, I say. Speaking of stat devices, I think we should pull them out to light this place up a bit. The Goblin did say that there might be traps around here, so we should watch our step. We walk down the dark tunnel for a few minutes, carefully checking every step of the way for traps, our enemies or enemy ambushes, and we step into a larger area lit by glowing blue crystals that we've seen before. We realize that all of our efforts to spot hidden ambushes have been wasted because the enemy was waiting for us here in this very room without making any effort to hide themselves. A single troll stands between us and freedom. Unfortunately for us, it is the troll that we would have wanted to meet the least. It is the one that we managed to avoid earlier, thanks to Aluna's golden cage spell. However, Aluna is not here now, and our chances of survival are looking slim. The bulky troll grins triumphantly at us, like before, and he announces his presence by speaking as loudly as possible. Did you really think that you could get away so easily? After all you've done, the troll says. Unfortunately for you, the existence of this passage was never a secret to us. As soon as you triggered the alarm by freeing the Minotaur in his cell, I knew at once that you would try to use this tunnel to escape. Now tell me, where's the Minotaur? He's gone, I tell him. He teleported away with our friends. I doubt you'll ever see him again. You are lying, the troll shouts, furiously. You would have never went through the trouble of navigating the maze, and if your friends really did teleport out of here, then you would have surely taken you with them. If you're not going to tell me where the Minotaur is, then I'll just have to walk over your dead bodies and search for him myself. You should know by now that you stand no chance against me. If you want this to be over quickly, then don't move. I will be sure to grant you a merciful death. That will not be necessary, Velgos, we hear a voice coming from behind the troll. A man who spoke shows himself to us, and we see that he is rather plump with a short black hair and a goatee, wearing clothes that appear to be made entirely out of silk. The way he looks and dresses would normally make me peg him as a noble, if it weren't for the look in his eyes, which is similar to that of the Goblin's generals. That look makes him seem more like a war veteran that has seen many battles in his lifetime than a pampered rich person who lives in a life of luxury. But owner, Velgos, the troll says, these are the intruders who came here to free the Minotaur. We need to eliminate them quick before they let him escape to the surface. The Minotaur is already gone, the man says. I saw him teleport out of here with my own eyes. There is nothing else for you to do here. Return to your post. I refuse, Velgos says, baring his teeth at the master. They are responsible for the deaths of many of my comrades. I am not going to let them go. I'm not telling you to let them go, the owner says. I am only asking you to postpone your fight with them until the second round of the arena event. The Minotaur is gone, and you are the only warrior we have who is on par with him. Combat-wise, I will pay you handsomely if you join the fights in your arena, and you will also have your chance to avenge your fallen comrades, since these two will be participating in the fights. Wouldn't that be a better alternative for you than to lose your job needlessly because you lack patience? The troll grumbles, but he does not seem like he wants to continue the argument. They'd better not get killed by the creatures in the first round, Velgos says, as he points towards us. I want to kill them myself. I wouldn't worry too much about that, the owner says. I say that we have very good chances of making it to their second round alive, based on what I've seen so far. Now get going. I need to lead our guests back to their cells. Fine, Belgo says. We'll discuss my payment later. With these final words, the troll walks away from us and he disappears into the darkness of the caverns. You're going to lead us back to our cells? I asked the owner. Not that I'm complaining, but aren't you the arena's owner? Why would you let us go so easily? I'm not letting you go, the owner says, as he knocks onto one of the walls, and a secret door opens in front of him. I simply think that it would be a great waste if the stars of the show got killed before the spectacle even started. Besides, it is well within your rights to come and sabotage the arena before the main event. In fact, I hear that there used to be something of a tradition before the still winter, when the Lesathai were still in charge of this arena. It was even encouraged by the organizers. The secret trapdoor that led you from your cells to here is proof of that fact. Now, don't just stand here. Follow me. The tunnel will lead us wherever you need to go. Me and Leela exchange a look, and then we decide to follow the arena's owner into the newly revealed secret tunnel. You know, the owner says, as the door closes itself behind us, I feel that I should thank you for the entertainment that you've provided me today. You do? I say. Yes, the owner says. It's not every day that you get to see Aluna of the Sacred Woods Massacre, Araka of the Still Winter, and General Faron of the Free Goblins wreak havoc through a monster-filled dungeon. I realize that you weren't the ones who brought them there, but I would never have found out about them if I hadn't followed you two since you fell into the lake. You've been following us from the very beginning? I ask him, shocked. Yes, the owner says. There's an ancient alarm system that has been set up since the ages of the Lesathai, meant to warn me if anyone triggers the trap from the arena cells. I found you while you were drying by the fire, and I have been following you from afar ever since. But how did you manage to remain undetected? I ask him. We even had a Raka with us, who could detect invisible enemies. Invisible enemies. Your goblin friend is not the only one who knows about secret tunnels, the owner says. Over the years, I have built many such hidden corridors through these caverns, and I've had them covered with ceridium dust, in order to make them sure that I can't not be detected while I walk through them. I've also had an illusionist cast a spell on the walls, which makes it so you can see through them from inside the hidden tunnels, but not from the outside. That allowed me to watch the events unfold without giving myself away. So I say, you've just been watching us instead of stopping us. Why? Because the show has already started, the owner says. I already told you. It's an old tradition of these arenas to have intruders attempting to sabotage the event, and I was not about to stop this from happening, when it was the first time that I've seen any participant make it this far since I've inherited this arena from my late father. I only stopped the troll from killing you because I am expecting great things from you during the main event. Why from us? Why not from any other gladiators? Because the two of you are the only ones using stat devices, the owner says. Oh, I say, not knowing exactly how to respond to this. Like I said, you're the stars of the show, the owner says. I even had one of the high-ranking Lesathai tell me that I would lose my job if I didn't confiscate your devices. But why would I? I've already decided this is going to be the crowning moment of my career. I do not care what happens afterwards. All I want is for this one show to be perfect, and you are both going to help me achieve my dream. We make it out of the tunnel and we find ourselves in a familiar setting, and with a wooden cabin in front of us and a lake further beyond. I don't know if you've noticed or not, the owner says, but beneath the lake the two of you fell in, there's an old elevator built by Lesathai hundreds of years ago. The elevator can only be activated with a spider-shaped key that has been passed throughout my family for generations, but has never been used until now. He pulls a spider-shaped statuette made from stone out of his pocket and he hands it to me. The mechanism that requires the key is located at the bottom of the lake, the owner says. Simply insert the statuette into the spider-shaped slot and rotate it twice in a clockwise direction. That should get the elevator going. Expect it to move a little slowly though. It has not been used for centuries. I nod to him and I jump in the water with the statuette in my right hand. I tell Leela to wait for me by the shore so I can come back to her once I've activated the elevator. After diving in the water, I immediately find the spider-shaped slot that the owner was talking about, and I do as he said, inserting the statuette into the hole and rotating it twice. As I see the elevator start moving, I quickly swim back to the surface and all the way to Leela. She jumps into the water and grabs onto me, and I lead her right above the slowly elevating platform. Man! Next, we wait in silence for a few minutes while the platform gets out of the water and lifts us into the air towards the ceiling. As we get close to the trapdoor that we initially fell through, the owner shouts his last words to us from Lake Shore. Remember that I have very high expectations from you, the owner says. Make sure that you do not let me down. And look at that! We have finished Chapter 3. And that took... wow, that was less than an hour. Actually, the last one was an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, well that was fun and really exciting. We have, if I can count, 8 more chapters to go. And hopefully another book. That'd be fantastic. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you liked this video. It's been my first Magium one in too long. And I will see you all next time. Bye.